Hey guys, welcome back to the RCINFORMER YouTube channel. This is Rich, and in today's video I'm going to share with you guys the slight improvements I made to the landing gear on the Arrows Hobby MIG-29 Fulcrum, coming from hobbyzone.com. This is a sweet airplane if you guys want to get one, and I highly recommend it because it's awesome. If you click on the links in our description below and you purchase one of these through our links, we get a tiny commission, and that way you're supporting the RCINFORMER YouTube channel and you get a fantastic airplane. This thing is really nice. Also, you can support us by liking, subscribing, commenting. Subscribe through our little link right here, and then clicking that notification bell below the video, and that will let you know when new videos are coming out on this airplane. Also, we have a lot of information on this plane on this channel, folks. If you click on that white circular eye in the upper right hand corner, there's actually a little window that's going to open up here. You'll actually, if you click on that now, you'll actually drop down a window right here with all the other videos in the series, and of course you could check on the RCINFORMER YouTube channel for the other videos. We have an unboxing, we have an assembly guide with some tips, we have some flight demos, and you can see how beautifully this airplane rotates. This is such a nice model, folks. I will have this at air shows for years to come. Null in the fall, Jonal, all those. This is a plane I'll be flying for some time, and I will always keep probably in my inventory as long as it's in production. So the history on this airplane is that it just came out, fairly new model. It's awesome. But I've noticed in some of the videos that I've seen guys flying the airplane, it either is hauling butt down the runway and going off the end of the runway, or it has to get up to a lot of speed. And when it gets up to enough speed and enough air flows over the horizontal stabilizer, the airplane will rotate abruptly. Now the reason that's happening, it's a simple thing. The airplane has a 0 deck angle compared to the ground. What that basically means is, and what I checked when I first got the airplane and put it on a table just like you see it here, I measured from the leading edge all the way down to the ground. I measured from the trailing edge of the flap at 0 all the way down to the ground, and I got almost exactly the same number, which means that the wing is riding parallel to the ground, and that actually makes it kind of hard for the airplane to take off because it really needs to have a little bit of a plus deck angle so the air can get underneath and the airplane can fly. So one of the things that was exacerbating the problem too was that the nose gear itself has kind of a weaker spring in it, which may be changed in future versions of the airplane. But what would happen is with a heavier battery in here, or with acceleration down the runway, the nose would kind of dive down and wheelbarrow a bit. And what that did is it took your 0 deck angle of the wing, this is the wing, this is the ground, and it would actually make it negative. So the whole airplane, the wing, fuselage, is basically acting like the spoiler on the back of a car and pushing the whole airplane down. So it really was having a hard time taking off. But with my little fixes here, it actually improves it and makes the airplane rotate nice and smooth every single time. Essentially, all I did was I took the nose gear, I made it longer by about 6 millimeters. I took the main landing gear and I made it shorter by about 5 millimeters. And that 11 millimeter difference gave us about a 2.8 degree angle off of the runway. Landing gear still goes up nice, and with that positive deck angle, the airplane flies off the ground beautifully. It takes off and lands so much better, as you guys can see in my videos, and I'm going to show you guys in this video how we're going to do that. Now the first fix that you want to do is to tighten this spring, and that's either adding a tighter spring in there, or just putting a little piece of maybe like a 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch piece of dowel rod or carbon tube in the nose gear, and I'll show you that here how that works, to tighten the spring and also limit its travel, because it doesn't really need to move that much. We're not going to be plowing it into the ground. And what that does is it first of all prevents the nose of the airplane from coming down, so we're not reducing our angle of attack anymore on acceleration. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by flipping the airplane upside down on the table here, and we will get right into how to adjust the landing gear so it rotates nicely off the runway. Starting with the nose gear, which really is the easiest part. Essentially, we're just going to disassemble this thing and put a little dowel of some sort in here. I went ahead and I put a carbon tube in here, and you can disassemble it several different ways. You can either take this screw off right here and pull this thing out and the whole assembly will come out, or you can choose either one of these E-rings here to remove, and you can also get in that way. So I actually ended up going in through my E-ring, which I thought was going to make it probably about as simple as it can be. You want to be careful you don't lose these, because these can fly away. So you can see here I went ahead and just pried one off. I took my foam tack off of there, and or pried my foam, peeled my foam tack away that I had keeping it on there. And then once you have that on, you can remove the pin, and I'll show you what happens to this thing. It's under quite a bit of pressure, so when you pop this out of here, and again, you can do it either way. You can do it this way, or you can do it via the screw that's under here. Either way, it's kind of a pain getting it off of there, but once you get it off, you'll kind of get the gist of what this thing looks like. So I'll pull this pin out of the backside, and you can see the whole thing kind of has a tendency to sort of explode on you. And way down in here is the spring, which could fly out on you. And then here's the little piece of carbon tube that I stuck in there to tighten the spring. Now the spring is down in there. You can see how that thing, what that thing looks like. I'm just going to let that go back down in there. Again, that's my piece of carbon tube. I put a good amount in there. It's probably, mine's probably more like 3/8 of an inch. But whatever size you think is right, and then just put this thing back on, compress it down. You can see it wants to spring away and fly away on me here. You're going to compress this whole thing back down, and then taking your pin, you're going to stick that pin back in between the two of those and get this thing put back together. Now that I got the E-ring back into position, the last step you're going to want to do with this thing is put a little bit of foam tack, guys, back on that E-ring that I had already put on there, so we don't lose that, because when you lose that, the landing gear all comes apart. It's important to note that this whole scissor assembly works, okay? It actually keeps this thing from rotating. There's nothing in the shaft that keeps this thing from turning around. This functions like full-scale airplane landing gear, so you need to have these things in place, and if you lose an E-ring and you lose a pin, this whole thing is going to like burst apart. So you want to make sure that you got that foam tack, something on there to make sure those E-rings stay in place. And again, if you need to get them off, you can just peel them off just like I did to get into this one. So the next step of this whole thing is really just removing the landing gear here, and all we're going to do, and I'm going to zoom in there so y'all can see everything here, we're just going to take our 2mm hex driver here, and we're going to remove the strut. So there's one on this side, there's one on this side as well. I'll take both of these off of here, and this is going to reveal what it looks like underneath. And you can see the collar that I had added. This is only 6mm tall, that's all it is. And you can see here the original flat spot right in here, that when this thing settles all the way down on, it actually engages that lower flat spot. All I did was add a spacer, and then taking a Dremel tool, which let me reach down here and grab, that has a cutting wheel on it. All I did was spin the cutting wheel, cut into this just a little bit, cut into the other side a little bit, and just refile a flat spot there. Of course, leaving a little bit of a lip. And the reason I use 6mm, I wanted to leave a little lip here on the end, so when the set screw engages that flat spot, it doesn't pop off the edge. Same on the other side. So now, as you can see, when we put this thing back down on top, it will engage the upper flat spot, and it can't pop off the edge. So you can see how nicely this thing goes down into place. We'll retighten that set screw. You can do a little bit of Loctite or a little bit of foam tack on there. We're going to re-engage that upper flat spot, the new one that we put in, with the set screw. And now we just made the entire nose strut about 6mm taller. And that's it, folks. That's as simple as it gets to make this thing a little bit taller. The only other real thing you have to be concerned with the nose gear is to make sure it goes into the well. You can see here that with the spacer that I put in, there's actually plenty of clearance. I could have actually made it a little taller if I wanted to and still have plenty of clearance here. The only problem is there's not enough shaft on this end. But otherwise, your nose gear, check it. It should go nice and easily in and out of the well. Shortening the main landing gear by 5mm is only slightly more involved, but really simple to do. The only caution that you have to keep in mind is to make sure that the landing gear or the wheel goes into the well, which is the reason why I only took 5mm off. I probably would have taken a little more off, but you'll notice as I retract the landing gear that it just fits into the well. You can see as it goes in, it kind of catches this corner just a tiny bit, but there's enough movement that it's not a big deal. And I went ahead and I shaved this corner here so the tire could get past there. Also notice there's more space up here in the wheel well than there is in the back. And that is why I only took 5 millimeters off. So be cautious. Don't take too much off of there, because then this thing might not fit in the well. Not a big deal, because you can always stick a washer in there or something if you cut too much off by mistake. So to get the main gear off, it's really just this simple. You just unscrew one of the set screws right there. I'll go ahead and extend the gear. And then when the gear is out, I can go ahead and unscrew this one. And that is it, folks. Main gear comes right off. It literally engages these two flat spot areas right here. And you can see here all I did, and you can see the scrap. I kept it so I could show you guys. I literally put this thing on a bandsaw and cut about 5 millimeters off, roughly. I used a sanding bar to get the end of it fairly smooth. So when it went down on here and contacted, it was fairly flat into place. So when I put this back on, I noticed, however, the first time it stopped by about 5 millimeters. I'll go ahead and zoom in on that so you guys can see what that looks like. You can see it stopped right there so I realized when it stopped there, I had to actually remove 5 millimeters of the shaft. So and you can see here I actually kept that scrap so I could show you guys kind of what that looked like. It actually came off here. And to cut these things off of here, all you need is that same Dremel tool with a cutting wheel. I took that and I cut that right off, sanded it flat, and then of course using the Dremel wheel just like I did last time, and some needle files, I actually filed this flat spot down. And you can see now when I put the landing gear back on, it's once again it's going to go all the way to the bottom, and it's going to engage that new flat spot we put into place. So getting this thing back into place, all we have to do is put this thing back on. So I'll go ahead and I'll tighten this thing, get it back into place. I'll go ahead and retract the gear one more time. I'll get my little scrap out of there. I'll tighten this one up, and we're good to go. Now, you guys can do this on the model. I actually did not do it on the model. I'll throw an overlay up here. You can see I actually took this plate, and you can see it in the overlay here. This is just contact cemented in place. I actually peeled the plate away, took the plate off the airplane, as you can see right here in the overlay, and with the 4 screws for the landing gear, just removed it, and I made all my cuts that way. So it's up to you whether you want to do it on the model or removing it. I found just removing this removing this plate and taking the whole gear unit out made this thing a lot easier. And that's it, folks. That's how you make your main gear shorter on this airplane, and it's extremely simple.
And that's it, guys. It's just that simple to make this airplane rotate, take off, and land really nicely. To recap, the nose gear, folks, just disassembling it, putting a 1/4 inch to a 3/8 inch piece of dowel or carbon tube like I did, and then reassembling it. That'll tighten up that spring and limit its travel, so as you're throttling and you're going down the runway, the nose isn't dipping. Also, putting that spacer in there, refiling a flat spot, raises the nose so we get a little more positive deck angle. And then taking the main gear, cutting it off 5 millimeters on the strut itself and on the shaft, refiling a flat spot, lowers the tail. So now we calculated that we're no longer even. We now have a 2.8 degree deck angle that makes this plane take off and land beautifully. So as you guys saw from the videos. If you guys want to see those, check those out. We're going to have a grass demo as well. If you look up in the upper right hand corner with the I information card, that little white circle in the corner, click on that now. It'll bring down a drop-down menu with all the other videos on this airplane. We have a lot of information, from an unboxing video to several flight demos to an assembly guide with some tips in there. And that's something you guys can check out. Also, if you guys want one of these, I can highly recommend it. Just check the links in our description below the video. If you guys click on our link, purchase it. Through our links, we do get a little commission, and we do appreciate that. It does support our channel. Also, this airplane is probably going to be I've been told it's going to be the last one in this color. So I think the next version or next batch, I was told, is probably not going to have this paint job. It's going to be something different, I think. So if you guys want one, get it. It's an awesome airplane. Again, I will have this airplane at air shows to come. This is a plane that will as long as it's relevant anyway. It's probably going to stay in my inventory for quite a while, and I'll be demoing it at a lot of events because it is pretty darn awesome. And I've only begun to explore like how maneuverable this thing really is. I know it'll do a lot more than what I've just been doing with it in just the first few flights. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was informative. I appreciate you guys watching RC Informer. Thanks for liking, subscribing, commenting. Click that notification bell to get new videos as we put them out. And we appreciate you guys watching RC Informer. And as always, we'll see you next time.